check out Deadhouse Gates by Steven Erikson. When compared to Gardens of the Moon, this thing is a cakewalk. It's so easy to understand. But zoom out, it is still hella confusing. So let's get this book review going. Have you ever heard of setting the tone early? Erikson, he's just a master when it comes to that. This thing is off the chains, and maybe I mean pun intended, right away. So we've got Felisin, Baudin, and Heboric. Apologies for the entire duration of this video. If I do not pronounce people's names right, I'm just still getting into the series, don't have the audiobooks, so I'm just going with my gut and understanding of the English language. But that aside, these three are chained together, don't seem to know each other. I think we kind of get a sense of that later, that some of them do. But either way, chained together, being hauled through the streets, being, shipped off as slaves, and going through this march. We see Baudin use the chains that are cuffed around his wrists to saw off a woman's head as a peace offering. Yeah, it's dark. I'm talking savage, just straight savage. The writing is so detailed that I can perfectly visualize what is happening in my mind's eye. And that is something he is so excellent at doing. Just the imagery is unmistakable, and it's unsettling. And it's also this ground four for Felisin that, you see the progression she's about to make through this series. She's innocent, she's defenseless, she's really kind of a child here. It's kind of interesting because it's hard for me to reflect back and remember I kind of liked this character at the early going, but definitely not where I thought it would land in the future. But yeah, this prologue is absolutely nuts. Who are Mappo and Icarium? Instead of staying on topic, which this series basically never wants to do, we're now time hopped like an anime time skip a few years into the future. We are many, many miles and oceans away from Darujistan, where we took off in the last book, Gardens of the Moon, and we're introduced to a bunch of characters we know nothing about, that being Mappo, the Trell, and Icarium, the half-jag. The Trell are these physically powerful people, very dutiful, loyal, men of purpose, women of purpose. The Jag, as we know from the previous go-around with Gardens of the Moon, they can be quite powerful as well in their own right. Not all of them are raced, which is evidenced by this book here. The shake-up in geography really threw me off here, trying to get my bearings of what's going on, and then these two, who seem like a very odd pairing, are having this standoff with a soul taken or something, and before you can even latch on to what's going on, we're shifting focus again. Who are the new Fist and Adjunct? We find out that the new Adjunct is Tavor. This is Felisin's sister, and she is hard as a rock. I mean, stubborn as a mule. She's replaced Laseen, who I guess I was wrong about. I thought she wasn't dead. I thought she was going to make some sort of comeback. I've watched a lot of anime, though, and I feel like I need to remain skeptical. We also have a new Fist to replace Duiker, and that's Coltaine. He, too, seems cold and direct, so it's starting to feel, as the reader, like Laseen really has a plan for these new replacements. The people of the past, they didn't work out, maybe they were too emotional, but the new recruits are very direct. We meet Coltaine through the eyes of Duiker. I'm gonna roll with Duiker. Can't wait to get savaged in the comments about that. Duiker, who I'm kind of mad about at this point, another historian role, okay, this guy's just a storyteller, makes me think of some Game of Thrones kind of people on the council that nobody really cares about, but I'm hopeful that he's going to go somewhere. Got to give characters a chance to grow, and he's quite skeptical of Coltaine, obviously, and maybe it's because he's a Wiccan. What is a Wiccan? In case you're like me and thought it was some natural, spiritual-based religion, philosophy, maybe witches, which I thought because I'm ignorant, it's not. It's these nomadic horsefolk and warlocks from the same world that Coltaine crawled out of. The three main warlocks are Sormo, Nile, and Nether, and they're pretty badass. Sormo, though, has a great intro. I mean, in walks this kid, and you're kind of going, this guy is the warlock leader? But it turns out he's had his soul replanted into this new child vessel. And if we know anything at this point, it's that, well, this can happen. Look at Tattersail from Gardens. You know it's coming, you know many characters are going to go through it, get with the program. But I really liked how it kind of called into question his reliability and his power, because it's a young kid walking into the room. What is Kalam plotting? I was so relieved to see Kalam, Fiddler, Crocus, Apsalar back in this story. You can't introduce me to a sequel without giving me some of the characters from the previous book. It would have been unbearable, and there's so many already. I don't need the learning curve to get harder at this point. Please make it easier. Give me some kind of transition. It's so hard too, because Piran and Quickben were honestly two of my favorites. So to go an entire book without them is just kind of torture. At least I thought it would be in the beginning, but I adapted and I enjoyed it. But these four, they're on a mission, and their mission is to kill the Empress, to assassinate Empress Laseen. That escalated quickly. It gave me total Nick Cage, we're gonna steal the Declaration of Independence vibes. National Treasure style, this lofty goal, and I'm thinking, man, that is straight to the top, they're going for it. And it turns out, Kalam is from Seven Cities. Kind of a lazy name, also confusing. There's more than 7 cities on 7 cities. It's not actually just 7 cities, it's a massive continent. We're not in Gimbakis anymore, people. We find that 7 cities has been kind of the center focal point of many, many empires over many, many millennia. And what tends to happen is when these empires reach the peak of power, a prophetic type rebellion seems to strike up and take them out. And the cycle starts all over again. Hint, hint. I think you can see where this story is going. What is the Conch? I haven't seen a Conch this interesting since Lord of the Flies, but there's no piggy here, just Fiddler and Kimlock. Fiddler's been around the block, it seems, because he's very mistrustful of this shaman-type man. It felt very, very rushed. Like, how did we end up in this situation? But here he is. He's with this spirit walker, I think, and he's gifted a conch, which everybody has the feeling this is going to have some significance later on. But also what I found interesting is that he didn't want the spirit walker to read his memories somehow by making contact with him or touching him. It's something, I'd be the worst fantasy character ever. I would say yes to everything. I would open everything. I would inspect everything. I'd be dead so many times over. Wouldn't even last 3 chapters. It just feels like there's something crazy to be unlocked and I want to see it, but Fiddler chickens out and rejects the opportunity. Getting to know Fiddler, and I think I might have, not trashed on him in the previous book review, but there wasn't a whole lot to say, and all of our time with each character was so short. Getting to know Fiddler was something I didn't know I needed in this book. What is the Book of Dryjna, and who is the Sha'ik? While Fiddler is playing with seashells, Kalam is busy setting up a spy meeting. Loving the Black Ops here. I feel like, the more and more deep into this book you get, just the badass nature of each of these characters is so great. This crew is wanted by the Malazan Empire, so big moves on Kalam to still think he's safe setting up meetings like this or barging in like this. He's able to be politically aware enough, culturally aware enough, historically aware enough of past events that he finds a way to maneuver himself into a position of power by taking this book and saying he'll be the one to deliver it to the Sha'ik. The Sha'ik is the figurehead of the rebellion. It's this old seer or prophet-like woman who is here and waiting for the resurrection of the Sha'ik reborn. And they call this rebellion the Whirlwind of the Apocalypse. And in order to, kickstart this thing into action, the Sha'ik will need the book that Kalam has offered to take to her. Kalam knows this is the best way for him to get safe passage through the desert, so he snatches it up. And I'm just thinking, man, this guy is getting more and more badass. He's on this impossible mission, so of course he's going to have to do ridiculously challenging things. But he wants the rest of the crew, Crocus and them, to lag behind a day or so, not follow him so directly, so that they don't get caught up in the whirlwind. See what I did there? What is Iskaral Pust doing out in the desert? When Mappo and Icarium just stumble across Pust in the desert, I'm thinking, what the heck is going on? I'm just thinking of this absolute lunatic bopping around in his cave, like losing his mind, scratching his head, and he's got this servant named Servant. So bizarre. We later find out he's working for Shadowthrone, but at the time you're like, why is this man out here in the middle of the desert? And how random is it for Mappo and Icarium to stumble in? Newsflash, nothing is random for Erikson. Anyway, this guy is hilarious. He's got the personality of the rabbit from Alice in Wonderland. He's all jacked up and hyper, and everything that comes out of his mouth is insanity or a song or a rhyme or something ridiculous. Everything that comes out of his mouth is like a riddle, and I'm just laughing at these self-monologues that are Gollum style, talking to himself. He flat out tells Mappo and Icarium, he's like, I want to use the Trell and the Jag to my advantage, and then he goes bantering off about spiders and getting rid of spiders. These soul-taken and divers are being drawn to this continent because they believe there's a gate somewhere that can get them to ascend. And it took me a while to figure this concept out, but now knowing that's his purpose, the goal is to get them to the Azath house, which we know from the last book has no issue swallowing up powerful creatures. And he doesn't hate having Mappo and Icarium around. I mean, this is a good thing for him. He has two powerful beings now who might be able to lend him aid in his venture to distract all these creatures, keep him safe, and get them, away from the gate. What's going on at Otataral Island? Meanwhile, Felisin, Baudin, Heboric, they're locked up on this island, this kind of jail site, and the sole purpose of the slaves on this island is to mine Otataral. Hope I'm saying that right. Anyway, this is the stuff, if you remember back from the first book, that makes magic ineffective. And in a world where warrens and magic can cause natural disasters, yeah, this stuff is pretty important, pretty reliable resource to have around. And what we also come to learn is that it's not a naturally occurring resource. Something or some event had to have created bearers being exposed to it for prolonged amounts of time, kind of drive them nuts. So that can backfire pretty easily. While in this prison, Felisin makes a decision that will change her character forever. She decides to sell herself in exchange for food and comfort. This is an incredible piece of writing. Early on, you're feeling like, wow, she's totally sacrificing herself, her innocence, everything, just for the sake of not even her friends, but her comrades, her fellows from the slave trade. And it's not going well. I'm looking at it through the lens where she comes from a status of wealth and power, her family. She's never needed or wanted for anything. She's never had to be resourceful. She's never had to endure. And I'm not in any way belittling her or any sort of situation like this, because it's horrible. There's serious Stockholm syndrome, because she believes the lead guard, the head of the prison camp, Benneth, is on her side. She's really, her mind melts into truly believing that her captor is her savior. Benneth, he's no savior. He's absolutely atrocious. So thank Hood. I don't know who we thank in this universe. Maybe we thank Hood? Opon? I don't know. Thank whoever we need to thank that Baudin absolutely mauls this dude in their escape, because it was so satisfying. Also, I was slow to connect the dots that Duiker is the one who set up this escape. But the escape is nothing short of epic. I mean, they're swimming through passages, needing to hold their breath. And then the scene with the bloodflies, come on, get out. I mean, this is a horrifying sight to see, a natural disaster, not a magic-made sickum. It's just crazy, and they attack, and Heboric's got no hands, so he can't claw them away, he can't cover himself with mud. She's trying to cover herself with mud so she can avoid it, and it's really, really challenging, and they get her anyway, right? And they're laying eggs inside her, which can basically kill you, and then they're knifing and clawing out the eggs and cleaning them, but she's left bloodied and scarred and battered and emotionally damaged. It's brutal. What was Felisin's path after the escape? This is where I think I really fell out of love with Felisin. My last hope for her as a character in my eyes that I would root for. She's just awful. she's awful. And I get it, you gotta give kind of an olive branch here to what she's gone through. But she is being treated with kid gloves, killed with kindness, and just has nothing but salt and venom coming out of her mouth at every given opportunity. And Baudin and Heboric, they just take it. Their patience is saintly. But while in this desert, I'm now distracted by this random glowing green object in the sand. Seems to pop out of nowhere, and boom, a new god has entered the fray. Fenner the boar. Heboric touches this thing, it hurts really bad, he somehow grows phantom hands, and the god is living through him? What were Duiker and Coltaine's path? The book jumps back into Coltaine and Duiker, and, they weren't my favorite chapters early, I'll be completely transparent. Reflecting back, man, I miss some good stuff. The way that Coltaine is drilling his men incessantly to prepare for refugees, to be difficult to, evacuate. This is something I don't think any sort of book or media I've ever experienced has tackled quite so well, because it's real. I mean, think about you leaving in a fire. You want to grab all your possessions, of course. That's going to happen here too if the rebellion kicks off, and Coltaine wants to be prepared for it. And in doing so, he kind of gets this bad rep for himself and for the Wiccan people, at least through Duiker's eyes. It's like, this man is harsh, this man is cold, why is he wanting to rip the people from these things? What happens in Sormo's ritual? It gets real fast when Sormo decides he's going to tap a Warren in the middle of this desert oasis. But it was at this moment Sormo knew he messed up, because when tapping into this sorcery, uninvited divers show up. Rereading this twice didn't exactly help. Seeing a swarm of wasps descend on the group and attack was very, very chaotic. It's such a testament to the writing that even in these moments, I can't logistically make out in my mind what exactly was happening, but the emotions and the vibrance that just comes out of the writing is so strong and vivid that I can feel what's happening. Of course I look back at my notes and I kind of put it together, but in the heat of the moment of the reading, it's so wild. So yeah, when Bolt is writhing on the ground of pain and there's some giant demon bear and a bunch of other spirits, and yeah, you see where I'm going with this? Culp has to whack Sormo over the head, Looney Tunes style, to get him out of this nightmare of a trance and put an end to this once and for all. But what I pulled from this is that the divers in Soul Taken, you're understanding that they are very focused on reaching this gate, wherever it is, because every time a very strong or powerful magical anomaly comes to, they are drawn like moths to a flame. And I think that's a pretty good reference point, because divers can literally be moths. It's humbling with Sormo to see this wizened and confident character be totally taken down a peg. Nobody is untouchable. You see that with Erikson. Just never can you assume that anybody is untouchable. What happens when Kalam goes solo? Kalam going solo, didn't love it, didn't like the separation of the group. Who am I to judge? But right away you find that he's being tracked. There's some pretty cool moments here though. I really enjoyed the part where he's kind of at this like outlaw style desert bar. He's sitting at the table and he learns the lines of a little bit of his Malazan services in the past to pull rank and get himself out of a jam. But he does get the precious book delivered to the Sha'ik, and it earns him a creepy three-legged demon named Apt to be his protector going forward. It's just a shame they run off for the Sha'ik to get absolutely wrecked moments later. At this point, I was like, whoa, that was kind of abrupt. This whole rebellion thing, what's going to happen here? But there was a whole lot of book left. What happened to Fiddler's group without Kalam? Things are pretty cool with Apsalar and her condition. I definitely wasn't a huge fan of her in the previous book after Shadowthrone and Cotillion were done using her. Now she's left behind with these powers, these assassin abilities, even though she's no longer being inhabited by a god. And it is cool here to finally get the real reveal that Kellanved and Dancer were actually Shadowthrone and Cotillion, and that's a great reveal, much welcome to have a little bit of clarity on the god front. I think one of the weaker parts of the writing is Crocus here. He's kind of buried a little as a character, he's pretty much just, drooling over Absolar or just being used to bring Moby into the scene. And I know Moby's super important, but for Crocus, there's just not a lot going on for him this one. Maybe he's not as fun without Opon involved. But Moby, later turning out to be a Soul Taken. A Soul Taken. What? I mean, they were hinting at him so hard being a little bit strange, but from him going into a little winged monkey type creature into a full-on beast mode, was not expecting that. I liked his parallel to Apt, and not that he's a demon, but in the way that Kalam has a protector that he doesn't know about, and Fiddler and his group have a protector that they don't know about. I mean, Moby's doing work behind the scenes. What is Mappo's burden? The time spent at Pust's place is strange. I mean, it's Pust. Obviously, it's going to be strange. But for me as a reader, it made me very distrustful of Mappo with his internal dialogue. The more they explore the depths of this ancient temple and are seeing artifacts and things, the more I'm starting to believe Mappo is covering something up. It's laid out so well throughout the book that it's so crazy when you discover he's not the villain. The signs were there the whole time. Like I said earlier, the Trell are powerful, resilient individuals, so he is very well suited to contain the Jag, and to know that he's there to make sure he can control Icarium or try to settle him should he go on a destructive rampage. That's a massive burden to live life where you have to constantly redirect your companion to calm him when he's provoked, to avoid making him into a walking calamity. That's such a tragic character. What is the ghost ship? Probably one of the most confusing parts of the book is when Culp scoops up Felisin and co. They're being tracked by some crazy mad mage, and they're sucked into this warren, and they need to abandon ship and get on to this other boat. This new boat is called Silanda, and it was very confusing for me because it kept making me think of Silana, the dragon from Gardens. I'm really, at this point, struggling to keep track of names. It's very challenging in this series, as I'm sure you well know. But this ship is littered with a massacre frozen in time. The victims are still headless. The blood and gore somehow remains fresh, and they discover these are the Tista Idor, which I'm sure we'll get to learn more about, but insert Erikson distraction, the Mad Mage returns, and as we know at this point, power draws power, massive power draws massive power, and here come the Talon Mass. See, this mage has caused a massive rip in the Warren that is kind of like a black hole. I think it collapses into itself and never heal. It'll be a major problem, and this is why the Amass step in and materialize out of thin air. See, I'm starting to get this feeling that these guys are really the protectors of the universe. I don't know, it's really hard to judge as a reader the good or the bad. I don't know if there is a good or bad, just everybody has their own goals and own ambitions. So the Imas, yeah, they're probably doing just that. One of them says, I can pretty much plug up the hole. I'll go up there, I'll teleport into that hole, I'll bind myself like glue to this thing and close it up. And they ask, what's going to happen to you if you do that? And it's kind of like the Azath house. You don't die, but you have no soul to carry on. You're just going to be stuck there like glue for eternity. No liberation, no death, just forever. What happens when the chain of dogs begins? When the rebellion strikes up, Duiker is left behind, and he goes on this Aragorn-style crazy horse ride to catch up to Coltaine and back up to the forces. It's where we start to see him really grow as a character. Like I said early on, wasn't thrilled with the chapters, and you see the dedication that he has to wanting to tell the true history, even if he's kind of forced into it sometimes, at the front lines. When he does catch up, it is not a great scene. The noble refugees are being brats. Coltaine, nonetheless, is prioritizing them and making sure that they make it to safety. It kind of felt out of character, but again, the progression in the writing is so good that he makes you very unsure about someone and then builds them into something that when you reflect back, you think, how could I have not liked Coltaine? I own it. I misjudged the man. Anywho, it takes an army of undead soldiers to get them through their first battle, which was a crazy scene. The use of magic, again, with these warlocks is really, really cool. And then, the reprieve is not very long, though. The reprieve is not very long. And, of course, this Semk god is here to take out Coltaine's forces. And it takes the Wickans, again, to use these spiritual, land-like magic to take him out. And when they do, they have to completely and fully eradicate it, basically eat it alive. And what I'm learning here, and in reading this, is that there's a very strong distinction. You will be able to carry on with your soul unless it's entirely devoured, eradicated, destroyed. There's a lot of blurred lines in the finality of everything. So in this case, they're saying and exposing the fact that if you do not eradicate this thing, it will find a leak, a way out, and it parallels very much the crows that came and delivered Sormo back to his new vessel. So again, Tattersail, Sormo, the Semp god, all of these things, they're related in the fact that they can reincarnate if the essence is still there. Why are Baudin and Heboric Felisin's protectors? The big reveal here actually got me. I mean, to find out that Baudin was working for the previous emperor, and Heboric's in on this keep Felisin alive journey as well, wasn't really seeing that coming. And to know that Tavor was doing this to gain favor with Empress Laseen, to make it look like, hey, I don't care who you are, I don't care what your family is, I'm making an example of my own sister, and this is how it's going to get done. So she sends her sister to the slave camps with guardian angels on her sides, and it kind of turns out that she tried to pull her out of there earlier, but Felisin was so infatuated with the idea that she was doing all this stuff in the prison camp to save her comrades via Benneth's generosity that they couldn't pull the plug and rescue her earlier. You've got the loyalty of Baudin, you've got the dedication of Heboric, you've got the confusing and maybe controversial game plan from Tavor. Who are the 4 founding races? Mappo uses his time travel with Fiddler as a little bit of an info dump. We come to find out that the 4 original races are made up of the Jag, like Raced from the prior book. We've got Tool, the Mass. That's another group from Gardens of the Moon as well. We've got the Forcruel Sail and the Kachain Kmail. I'm really not going to be able to pronounce these things. It's such a little teaser, right? It's such a little teaser. Like, okay, here's these races, but we don't get a whole lot of depth out of it and what they're about and how it all came to be. We're definitely going to get more. I can't wait. I'm salivating over that. But man, this teaser is just, it's killing me. What does a life given for a life taken mean? There's a million different ways you can skin a cat. There's a million different ways you can look at this thing. And to me, chime in by all means in the comments if you have a different point of view or saw it differently. But what I saw through the lens of Apsalar's body was taken. Her life was taken by the rope. And you can never undo what's been done. And so by taking that life, the rope made a decision. And the decision was to give her a new life. He leaves her with the skills, he leaves her with his abilities, he doesn't leave her with his touch, so she can't be sensed out magically. And it's pretty awesome because she can make of that what she wants to. She's choosing to go on this journey, right? She said she wanted to go on the boat at the end of Gardens. Nobody made her do it. She could have done whatever she wanted. In this book, we also get what I was yearning for in Gardens, because the moment Cotillion leaves her body and possessing her, they do reference like something's left behind, and if I mess with it, I don't know, it's not going to be good. And it turns out that he's left these kind of core memories when they shared a mind, and he's also left the assassin abilities. Originally, I thought, wow, he used her and then dipped, but it wasn't that way. He found a way to empower her, and she empowered herself and used her own ambition to do what she wanted to do. Who is Apt working for? Turns out, Apt is working for Shadowthrone. Always working for somebody. This is Malazan. But this Aptorian has emotions? Wasn't exactly expecting compassion from this thing, but to see over 1,000 bodies of children crucified on the side of the road, there is no lack of darkness or, who are you going to go there? Erikson will go there. He will go there every time. He has no fear of going. So App decides to take a boy down from one of these crucifixes and, bring him to Shadowthrone and have him heal him, which comes at a cost according to him, so we'll see where that goes. But it is kind of comical for me to see and imagine that this little boy is riding on the back of a three-legged demon. How did Felisin end up in this underground tomb? This continent has serious depth to it, and I mean literally. There are cities buried under cities here. And as usual, it took me forever to figure out that they're now in some underground temple. The scene was crazy. You have all these mineralized people permanently solidified underground. It's got these Italy, Pompeii volcanic ash vibes. The Tisti Idor preserved on the ship as is. Now these people mineralized perpetually forever underground. There's just a wild history of this place. And while I'm sitting in all of that, Heboric grows magical hands and tosses Felisin around like Cirque du Soleil. Dude, there is no lack of imagination in this book. Who is Pearl? Pearl's been jumping in and out of really this whole book without the reader really knowing. It's cool to find that out. And he even sees Kalam at one point with Apt at his side. That's probably horrifying to see. But Pearl really is trying to pull strings, keep Coltaine's crew safe if he can. How did Kalam get into the city? He uses it to travel to the Imperial Warren, which I found awesome. It's basically this, in my mind, black expanse of nothingness. And the only way to travel it is to imagine in your mind's eye where you're going. So if you lose focus, you could be walking for days, for months, maybe for years, I don't know. Not like they have food, so I don't think you could make it that long. But Kalam really is trying to harness in and focus on where he needs to go. It kind of reminded me of Sanderson's Cosmere otherworldliness, just that intention drives your destination. And when he makes it there, he actually has a prearranged setup with Mibra, the guy who gave him the book in the first place, and it looks like he's going to get to where he wants to go and complete this assassination mission. Who becomes the new Sha'ik? I'll admit it, I was duped. I really thought it was going to be Apsalar, but he keeps these two sort of on a parallel path, as it could be either of them, and Apsalar, as we'll learn, just doesn't want to be used. I think that's fantastic for her character arc, but it does make me hate the fact that a character that I loathe is getting a serious power-up. I applaud Erikson for making me feel so deeply about certain characters, and he did that really well with Felisin. Their final escape is absolutely insane. Baudin and Culp just laying on a sword to get her out is just, it's the final satisfying but not satisfying. Like, Felisin, you suck, you never saw it, and this guy's gonna save you from the divers, from the soul taken. He's doing everything he can. Culp's doing everything he can, and you suck. Throughout this time, there's this change in her character. She becomes more like all-knowing and confident, but when she finally gets her hand on the books, I thought it was a pretty neat touch that the previous Sha'ik's memories come flood back into her. She's showing there is again a level of possession that goes on with many of the main players in this story. I never really know who's themselves truly and fully. Like, if they drop the bomb that Fiddler or Kalam, that kind of rhymed, if they drop the bomb that one of them has been possessed this whole time, I don't know if it would just infuriate me or make me manic. I don't know, please don't do that. But it's this random character change, this shrewdness and this knowledgeable nature that allows her to strike a bargain with the Whirlwind goddess by not actually opening the book herself. Not really sure how, like telepathically, she talks to this goddess, but she allows herself to keep her own essence and body going forward. And there's a pretty cool comment, she's the Sha'ik remade, not reborn. Because she is still Felisin, she does have some of these core memories, but sort of like Apsalar, they're all swirled into one. Obviously, the possessor, the Whirlwind goddess, is really pulling the power here, but there is something left behind of her as well. How old is Icarium? Icarium is 1,000,000 years. No, I'm just kidding. He's at least 94,000 years old. Icarium comes to discover an ancient timekeeping piece that he realizes he made himself, and it's dating him back at least 94,000 years. It was here that he stood all those years ago, and the weight of this is just, it's a lot. He knows there's something missing. He knows this amnesia cycle is just not very good. This bond between Mappo and Icarium, you feel it's about to snap at any minute. The full truth is going to be revealed, and it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt the reader. It's going to hurt both of them. You don't want to see it happen. It's like a meteor coming to planet Earth, and you just have to sit and watch it. It's like a train wreck that you can't peel your eyes from. It's inevitable. Who is Servant? Like I mentioned earlier, it's Apsalar's father, but it is at this point in the story that we do get the reveal. It's a mix of emotions that you go through because you're frustrated that he too was used, just another person used in this giant pawn god's game thing. But it's also a sense of relief that Apsalar is actually able to reunite with her father, that maybe it all worked out for a reason. For once, Apsalar doesn't have to have exclusively tragic outcomes. What is Tremorlor? Tremorlor is this ancient, mossy, branchy undergrowth maze that surrounds the Azath house. It's the house as well. I mean, it's everything all-encompassing. It really reminds me of the Blight, this overbearing infestation of a maze of vines and reeds and nasty, nasty jungleness. Should just have caution tape and beware of dog signs everywhere. What we learn is that Tremorlor actually has a portal-like ability to get people to where they want to go, which is very, very good for people getting the hell out of here later in the book. The sequence in this maze is nuts. I mean, you got Pust going crazy. You got Icarium fully hitting a mental breakdown. The divers and the soul taken are trying to get both at the gate, at him. Power attracts power, remember, and it's all coming here. Like I said, he knows now that his fits of amnesia are the result of his fits of rage and destruction, and he hates that for himself. It's breaking him. The realization is palpable, and he wants to, at this point, sacrifice himself to the Azath. He feels, why cause any more harm? Just take me forever. And Mappo is fighting for his friend. I mean, he is his friend. He does not want this end result. It's like the Imas from earlier. If you do this, you are forever gone. You don't die. You're just permanently stuck. I was actually feeling stressed reading this. Like, the distress is horrible. Thank God the hounds appear. That felt kind of out of nowhere, but hey, it helps Icarium go free. He gets released a little bit, and then of course you got the magic conch exploding. Imagine reaching in your bag for a grenade and then pulling out a seashell. Does Sormo die? Duiker is a real one. I mean, the progression of this story and understanding the sacrifices Coltaine makes, the decisions he makes, the tactics, the refugees turning into an army. I mean, it's powerful stuff. Each time they're met with a doomsday scenario, Duiker bears witness to greatness. Not only that, apparently he's an ex-warrior himself, so he steps up to the plate a couple times to fight. Unfortunately, though, there are casualties. And this time, it's Sormo. He takes an arrow to the forehead. But what happens is magical. Thousands of butterflies descend upon him and help free his soul for the next vessel. Again, we're seeing spirits being able to move from body to body. Nevertheless, it is a sorrowful moment for Duiker. But I think his anonymous Marine Bay is, she makes it a little better in the end. How does Kalam escape the pirates? Yeah, pirates. I feel like this part came totally out of nowhere, but Erikson apparently does not want to leave any dry time in any of his books, no matter the chapter. On his way to the island, Kalam finds himself in the middle of this mutiny plus pirate invasion. It turns out that the treasure on the ship was working with some local pirates to make sure they come on board and seamlessly take the goodies and the valuables. But Kalam ain't no pushover, he senses this and just gets himself out of a really sticky jam with the captain's help as well. I think everybody was a little more aware than they thought they were, and so they make this takedown not go smoothly. How do they get into the Azath house? Like I mentioned before, Moby's the secret weapon here, and he's actually able to unlock the door. They are all trying and banging to get in. Moby comes out of nowhere after his ridiculous beast transformation, and he makes his way into the Azath house. The rest are able to follow. The inside is eerie. Moby stops at this suit of armor, and I'm like, can we look at that? Can we look at that? But the rest don't notice. The author doesn't want you to see more, but he'll come back to that because he's Steven Erikson. They do notice multiple powerful beings, though, trapped in their eternal Azath slumber. And man, could you imagine? I really don't know if it's going to happen, but if these things are unleashed, man, the calamity that would follow. Maybe that's something coming. Maybe that's something Erikson will cook up. They also stumble into Gothos. That is Icarium's father. He's the guardian of the house. And it turns out that one of Icarium's major rage moments was trying to free his father from this place. I mean, it goes deep. It goes deep, the sadness with this character. They find a way to portal out with Gothos' guidance, but before he goes, there's another knowledge bomb dropped that it wasn't Icarium that caused the destruction that killed all the Trail people. Like, dude, how much more tragic does this guy's story need to get? As for Pust, he just falls out into oblivion and gets himself out of there. Lucky guy, I guess. So they leave, and they leave behind Moby, who's with the suit of armor coming alive. What happens to Coltaine in the end? Coltaine tries to reach peak honor after this, and he succeeds. The forces are in trouble, and they negotiate safe passage to get to Arran, the final city they've been trying to flee to. But they cannot negotiate safe passage for the final 3 miles. They're gonna be vulnerable, and Coltaine says to Duiker, take all of the refugees and run. We'll attack the army and protect you. The scene is, how many times am I going to use the word tragic in this thing? The scene is tragic and heartbreaking. So Duiker makes his way back to Arran. They let them inside, and the Fist, this inept Fist, is on the castle walls just watching over this battlefield, and they climb to the top of the tower. Duiker is just sitting there in awe as Coltaine's forces are getting swarmed and one by one overwhelmed and taken out. And I'm just envisioning Coltaine in the middle, this last stand, as the enemy circles in, he's going down, and Duiker's just standing there watching this slaughter. And the king, who has an army of his own, will do nothing to assist him. And then, of all things, they finally take the last man down, and they put up on crucifixes each one of these men, Coltaine in the middle, but they won't let him die. They will not let him die because they want him to suffer. But atop the ramparts, a soldier is tasked with loosing an arrow to take Coltaine down. I mean, this shot is forever away, but it's actually a mercy blow. And it'll allow the crows to come collect his soul, because as long as he lives, they can't do it. So he takes this Hail Mary shot, and Coltaine, after this amazing, heroic journey, meets his final days. At least in this vessel. Did Kalam assassinate Laseen? Kalam's John Wickness is epic. He escapes the ship, not easily, and then it turns out the captain turns on him. He discovers what Kalam's doing, and he stabs him in the gut. Apt does not like this, and so between Apt and some crazy sorcery and a bunch of stuff, there's just a chaotic brawl, and Kalam gets away. I've been rambling for a while. I can't remember if I mentioned Manala at this point, but she's been kind of tracking Kalam in the shadows this whole time as a good thing, and so she jumps out to help him escape. Kalam's infiltration does end up a success, and he comes face to face with Laseen. Well, not actually face to face. He does realize that she's not there physically in the room with him. I think it was like a reanimated corpse that she was speaking through. But even still, he's made a decision to lower his weapons. He's not going to kill Laseen. Now, I don't know what to believe. She spins this tale that everything she's been doing was for the good of the Empire. right down to the assassination attempt. She says that she was working with Duiker the whole time, even to the back book, and this is enough for him to lower his guard and say, you know what, if I murder you, who knows who steps in next. This could be complete chaos for the Empire, so for now, I'll let it lie. Does Duiker die? Duiker is somehow made out to be the scapegoat. Either way, the Fist decides they're going to ride out and surrender. And Duiker goes with them to record the history. And what happens next is that this was all a sham. They too are going to be part of the slaughter. And one by one, they're taken down and they're set up on crucifixes, just like everyone had been before them. The only good that came out of this was that the Fist gets beheaded, so good for him. Glad to see that. But seeing Duiker nailed to a cross, I mean, is crushing. Later we do see that the patrol that comes across this site does notice that the cross that Duiker was on is empty. How does it all end? I guess it wouldn't be Malazan if Shadowthrone doesn't show up, and he does, and he goes total Wizard of Oz mode. He sends Apsalar and her pop home, he gets Fiddler out, and Fiddler decides he's going to rejoin the military. Kalam and Manala are sent off to a peaceful village, and meanwhile, Tavor comes a day late and $1 short. She comes out to Aran. Felisin, i.e. the Sha'ik, throws a curveball. She decides to withdraw and not face Tavor head on. Pust has the funniest ending of all. Apparently the spiders he's constantly been complaining about and just hates having on him, yeah, that's his wife. His wife is a diverse, and she's made of spiders. Mappo and Icarium continue their wandering, and in their outro, they come across Coltaine's dogs and a young boy. So they revive the boy, they revive the dogs. Maybe this is going to be Coltaine reborn, but I can't say for sure, because then two hooded figures, I think, come across the site that Duiker was at, and they pick up a bottle. This bottle actually was given to him long before by Coltaine during one of the battle sequences. Can't quite remember, but maybe this is going to have some impact? I'm really curious who, Coltaine Reborn's going to be, who Sormo Reborn's going to be. Will Tattersail come back? But that's a little bit far stretched from this one. See, I'm not sure who it's going to be, but time will tell. Now, I highly doubt many, if any of you are still here, and I might just be talking to a camera. And that's okay, because it helps me wrap my head around what happened in this book. But I do hope some of you do get the chance to engage in the comments, find what I slipped up on, missed up on, and it's not intentional or hurtful or purposeful to leave out any information. It's a learning experience. This book is really dense. You would know if you read it, and I'm sure that's why you're here. So please, elaborate on things I'm missing. Share some things that you pulled away. I do keep this spoiler free. I haven't read beyond this, and I'm hoping viewers that have gotten this far, if they have read the books, they won't spoil anything in the comments for other readers who may be watching and haven't read past Deadhouse. Overall, I really liked this book. It was way better than the first one for me. I'm curious if it's something like Wheel of Time, where if you go back and reread from book one when you finish, it'll all make a lot more sense. I'm sure it will. Maybe one day I'll have the leisure time to knock that out. But as a composed work, Deadhouse Gates is just way better than Malazan's first book, Gardens of the Moon. The story was still difficult to follow, but a lot easier to follow. I think I had a little bit of trouble with the map. If the map was a little easier to understand and see where characters were throughout and where they were moving, it took me a while to get my bearings. I loved Coltaine's arc. And I also think it's really cool that you don't get internal dialogue from him. It's all third-party point of view, right? You're getting everything from Duiker, so you don't really understand this man's intentions, but from what I see, he's just an incredible character. As for Felisin, man, I don't know why. Maybe I'm just a horrible person, but I just hope she gets taken down. I want no part of her. The way she treated her companions was just absolute trash. Maybe I read it wrong, so hash it out with me if you want to in the comments, but it's just very difficult for me to enjoy a character like this. Man, this was good. This was good. I'm going to give it a 7.16. 7.16. Whew, what a good book. I don't know if I can fully recommend this series. I'm only 2 books in, so you know it's going to be a long haul. But in terms of improvement from book 1, I mean, above and beyond. And I can't wait to see where it goes from here. I hope the momentum is kept. I do not want to see a slog in the middle of the series that just crushes my spirits. It might happen, But this is about Deadhouse Gates, this is about this book, and a 7.16 is what you get from me. I usually do Goodreads reviews at this point, but for a series like this, I am so nervous about spoilers that I'm just not going to touch it. But how about you? Deadhouse Gates, did you have any questions that I didn't touch on? Did I get anything wrong that maybe needs to be further elaborated on? Did I leave anything out that should have been included? Let's talk about it. Let's engage. I can't wait to hear from you guys. If you enjoyed this video, if you enjoyed the review, drop a like, subscribe. I hope to see you soon as this journey continues with the rest of the Malazan Empire. And remember, folks, a chapter a day keeps the brain rot away. Have a great evening.